Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We are joined by 6 of our board members, and we also have Ms. Byrne, who is here virtually on the Google Meet. We are joined by our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Timothy Harney, our Assistant Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, Dr. Ted Fulton, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operation, Mr. Rich Snyder, our District Legal Counsel, our District Clerk, Mr. Chris Oliva, and our Student Rep, Robert Honey. Just a few announcements before we turn it over to the Superintendent. There are 2 opportunities for the community to participate during the Board of Ed meeting. The first is just before the board takes up its agenda, and the second follows the disposition of all agenda items. If you would like to speak tonight, there's a microphone in the back. You must be a resident of the school district. If not, there must be a majority vote from the Board of Education to allow you to speak. We ask that you try to keep your comments to 3 minutes. For the convenience of the community, all board meetings are taped and posted thereafter to the district website. And if you'd like to follow us the school district, you can follow us on Twitter at BBP Schools. And if you'd like to follow Dr. Harney, you can follow Dr. Harney at BBP Soup. Before we get into community new or old business, we want to turn it over to Dr. Harney for an update. Dr. Harney?
Thanks, Mr. Miller. Good evening, everybody. I'm going to go through a number of items with us, so I'll be with you for a little bit. Let me just kind of start a little bit here. So I have a number of announcements for you, and I know there are a number of people who have been asking about the instructional plan, so I will talk about that as well. I'm just going to go through a couple of other items first. Well, here we are, day 17 of instruction. So this is, we've had one instance, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Just things that we've been talking about as a whole. So let me just start with this. One of the things we've started to talk about is, you'll see some districts have started to do it. As you know, the high school sports season was moved to the spring, so we are starting to talk about off-season workouts for all of our students, and it would be open to anybody. One of the things we are working on is looking to do this possibly next week. We are starting to put some protocols in place. How we would do it is we would mimic what we're doing currently within our schools. So, for example, if you are a blue or a gold day at the secondary level, those are the students that would be open for an off-season workout. So that would be something. Everything would be outside. I would be 12 feet apart. Everything that we've been doing that was related to our school district in terms of our safety and protocols is something that we would be looking to do. We've also started to talk about clubs and activities, and also some of the after-school instructional programs, like for at the middle school where we had the extra help program. So those are things that we will be looking at within the next week or 2. We're looking to hopefully start the program at the middle school, which has been placed for the last couple of years, next week as well. So that is something, along with the off-season sports. So we'll talk more about that as we get more information, but we are looking to do that. The key part, as I said, is we're going to be following all our protocols and procedures. So we're working on a document that we will share once we have that. People have started to also ask about building use from outside. One of the things I said last time, we're still continuing to do that. We will not really look at that until November 1, and then we'll start to talk about do we want to start to use our buildings and how do we want to use them. All right. Positive case. So I want to talk about this. So as you know, last Friday we had to close the high school. So let me talk about this a little bit. So it was probably about 8:30 on Thursday night. Matter of fact, it was the high school parent-teacher night. On that night, we were notified that we had a student who had tested positive. So just so people can kind of get an understanding what takes place, is we were notified, Mr. Haas was notified, and then what took place at that time, he reached me, and we kind of started to put our plan into place. With that, he spoke to the Suffolk County Department of Health. We talked to the person that is involved. And really because of the timing of the notification is really why we ended up closing the school for the next day. We were trying to figure out where the student was all day long. Actually, it was a student that was not actually in school that day because they were part of the other cohort. But when it happens, you have to look 48 hours prior to either testing positive or when they first showed symptoms. So we started to look at all that. We had to gather all that information. So that night, we made the decision that we would close. That Friday, we put in together our instructional plan, which was really as it became where it was a live version at the time. Students were supposed to be logging in on a regular basis that day, so it actually was a good test for us. And then what happened is that morning, we have to provide a ton of information to the Suffolk County Department of Health, and it ranges. So we had to provide who the student was in contact with, where the student was, the size of the rooms they were in, the capacity of the rooms, the MERV rating for the rooms, were the windows open, were the students wearing masks, are they 6 feet apart? We get a litany of items that we have to provide to them. So Mr. Haas worked on that the majority of the morning. And then what happens is once we gather all that information, we then share it with the Suffolk County Department of Health, who what they do is every day they have a committee that gets together to look at cases in different districts. Typically they meet at 2 o'clock. And then really it becomes a waiting game for us. It becomes a game in terms of the information we provide. Then they will tell us who would be quarantined, who becomes a close contact, who becomes a proximate contact. So on this day, when we had sent all the information, we probably sent the information for over 130 students, 140 students that the student had contact with during the time that they were here. In the end, we had a very small number of students that needed to be quarantined. I'm not going to use specific numbers because I don't want to single anybody out. And it was really one specific class, which now we are kind of addressing.
Dr. Marty, if we could just hold up 1 second. I guess there is an issue with the live streaming.
Oh, okay. Sorry. All right, so what I was, oh, they can't hear me though, right?
There's a problem with the link. Ms. Kiefer is presently creating a new link that she's going to post to the website.
It's got to be written into the chat.
Yep.
I'll try to, once we get the new link, I could post it into the chat for the link that's not working.
If you guys didn't hear that, we're going to post a new YouTube link. They will put it in the chat. Anyone at home will be able to see it live when the new link is available. This is being taped, and we will post this right after. So I'm sorry for the technological issue. It should be fixed in a few minutes. Sorry, guys, we'll just try one more minute, and then we will move forward. All right, thank you guys for your patience. We truly appreciate it. It was just posted on the YouTube chat. It was also posted on the website. So anyone in the chat right now should be able to click the link and it'll take you to a new YouTube website. Dr. Harney?
Okay, so if you are hopping on now, joining us through the live stream, I apologize. Really what you've missed so far is I just talked about off-season workouts a little bit. We are videotaping this, so we do have that. I spoke about building use a little bit, and I'm just talking about the positive case that we had at the high school this past Thursday, which ended up closing the schools for Friday. So where I was in that is, so when you have all the information, we had all the information that Mr. Haas was able to put together, then on Friday, they shared it with the Department of Health. And from there, they have a committee that reviews everything. So at that time, they can then come back to us and then tell us how many students or adults or staff, it doesn't make a difference, would need to be quarantined. As I said, I'm not going to share that number, but it was a very low number compared to the 100 and something students that we put forward. And again, a lot of it had to do with the safety procedures and protocols that we had in place. Then really the procedure is that Mr. Haas would contact, or the principal would contact anybody who had to be quarantined. And then the Suffolk County Department of Health really follows up and does the rest. They do that next part within the next 24 to 48 hours, and then they'll call or contact the homes every day for the next 14 days. And then if no one else shows a positive case, they are to return, and they receive a note, which then needs to come back to us. So that really kind of talks about the process for the positive case. I'd really like to thank Mr. Haas and his staff because they did a great job in terms of getting ahead of it and having all the information ready. So when we presented it to the Department of Health, we were in a very good spot. So that's good to hear. So again, it goes to all the planning that took place in the summer. Next thing, which came out yesterday, and I don't know if any of you happened to see this, but Governor Cuomo yesterday talked. He did a late briefing, I guess, it was around 3 o'clock yesterday. And during this briefing, he talked about a couple of things. For schools, he started to talk about zones. We really don't have the details to this yet, so I don't have all the particulars. So he started to talk about areas that fell into a red zone, orange zone, yellow zone, and a green zone. Red zone is what I guess they were referring to as if there was a cluster of positive cases. If that was the case, schools would be closed. And I'm really only going to worry about the schools, though there are other areas that do get impacted, but I'm going to talk about schools. If it was an orange zone, which is just a little bit outside that, they would be closed. They would be closed as well. A yellow zone is the most interesting one because I'm not really sure what will happen here. Is he's saying within a yellow zone that schools would have to do testing on a weekly basis. So we're waiting for direction on that, and really, truly, what does that mean? He said we were supposed to get more information by Friday. And then if you're in a green zone, you kind of continue as you've been doing. So it's usually around the mileage around whatever that cluster was. So as a district, we are still waiting. As a matter of fact, all the districts are still waiting for information on that. So that's kind of it for the updates. I'm going to kind of talk to you about things we've been doing with the instructional plan. So as you know, is we went out of school last March. I'm going to do a little bit of history here. And one of the things we've continuously talked about is being very methodical about what we're doing and really taking a look at everything that we are trying to do. As you see, and many people within our community work in various districts, there is absolutely no perfect model because that's why every district is doing it a little bit differently. And what people are saying they're doing even looks a little bit different when you dive into further conversations with them. Our idea was always to look at what we were doing and try to move forward as we were going. So let's talk about, from a history standpoint, is we talked about really kind of thinking about how we wanted to provide the instruction to our students. So we started over the summer, early summer, with a number of committees. We started with our instructional committee, which is really made up of staff, and then we did a number of committees and subcommittees, which encapsulated probably 200 or so of our stakeholders, which you've heard me talk about even when I was doing the open forums. And really, it represented everyone across the district, from various leadership positions to administrators, to union leadership, to our teachers, to our TAs, to really everyone, custodial staff. And where it took us as we started to think about the beginning of the year, as you know, we started with our K-5 students coming in, and we've been doing very well with that. And then we talked about our 6-12 model, which at the time was a hybrid, which currently is, it's a hybrid model. And we talked about 2 days of students coming in, and we talked about 3 days of virtual. Through that, and people ask, okay, why did you choose that model? And we've been asked that question. And I'm going to share with you a lot of the things that were considered by the committees that were put into place. As I said earlier, I truly believe there was not an easy answer as we were looking at this. So in the committee, things they need to consider. They needed to consider some structure versus flexibility because different families have very different situations from the information we were given. We wanted to take into consideration access to staff. We wanted to take into consideration daily live interaction. Hence, out of that came one of the advisory periods, which I'll talk about in a little bit. We wanted to talk about screen time. We wanted to talk about parents with multiple students or students taking on other roles within their own families, taking on maybe taking care of the younger siblings. We wanted to talk about the role of videos that we were trying to use where students could actually go back and instead of and kind of work at their own pace. We talked about that so they could play things back. We talked about how to manage both in-person and a Google Meet. It's not as easy as people think it is. We also wanted to say, okay, let's learn as we're going along from other districts. We also wanted to know what types of different supports people had at home. So when we originally put our hybrid model together, these are all the things, and many others were taken into consideration. So it's trying to find a balance. And it's interesting as you do this is we talked about this, and we talked about, when I was doing the open parent forums, we talked about a 5-week assessment. It's something we always said we were going to do as we were going to look at our model. And that is something that we started to talk about. So really, we decided, I guess Friday, we knew we were putting out a survey on Friday, which we put out. And at that time, we had basically had gone through 14 days of instruction. So we actually even moved up the assessment that we wanted to do. And then we put out a survey. And I'm going to kind of go through some of it. So we did the parents and we did the students at the middle school and the high school. What the survey really showed is exactly what is actually very interesting. And what I mean by that is it was almost a split 50-50 in certain areas where people were pleased with how things were going. Other people's had some areas that they want us to take a look on. So I'll just share a little bit of it with you. All right, so we had 679 responsive. This was as of about noon this morning, so it might be a little bit higher now. But if you're thinking about that, we have about 1,100 students between 6th and 12th grade, so I thought that was a very good representation. So I'd like to thank everybody for that, because when we have sent out surveys, we've had very good representation, so thank you. We really appreciate that. If you're going across the grades were pretty much right on. All of them had roughly about 15%. The lowest grade was seniors, of parents, which was almost 12%. Everyone else was between 12 and 5, so it was a very good representation. So the first question was, how many hours during the day is your child spending completing work while they're at home? So it really was across the board. The lowest was 1 to 2 hours, which was 20%, and then 2 to 3 hours was 32%. So, and then everything else fell in between the other two. So that was interesting. How many outside hours of the school day? Majority of that was roughly 1 hour. It was 57%. Then we started to take a look at how you would rate the current hybrid model. All right. So we did it. We did a 1 to 5 rating. So we did it this way. I'm just going to do it simply. If you take the 1s and the 2s as one of them, and then 3s and the 5s as the other group. So within the 1s and 2s and how parents rated the current model, it was roughly about 48% were the 1s and the 2s. The other 52% were the 3s and the 5s. So that's what I'm saying. It's very much very close into the middle. We asked if people felt they had appropriate access to the teachers. 64% said yes, which left the others 36% saying they needed more. How often has your child reached out? We had 38% of people saying never. We had close to 50% saying sometimes. Often was like around 12, and then always was around 7. This was just very good information. Connectivity, I'm not going to really worry about that one. Overall, the connectivity was working well. Using a scale, please rate your child's overall academic experience with the virtual days, because I know that's been a huge concern for not only for yourselves, but for us. If I stick to the 1s and 2s, it was about 38% was the 1s and the 2s, which put the others 62% between 3s and the 5s. So you see there's a lot of split in here. How would you rate your child's motivation during the virtual days? So this one was close to about 49% was the 1s and the 2s, and 51% was the 3s to the 5s. Okay? How would you rate your child's motivation during the impersonal days? As you would think, 1s and the 2s were not even 5%. The 95% was the 3s and the 4, which is really what we'd hoped, right? The in-person piece. And then we asked from a parent if they had some concerns, have you reached out? We had about 30% say they have, and about 70% said they had not. Then the final question, which is if you had an option and we could do something, what would it that people would like to see? No change was about 11.5%. Now this one you're allowed to choose more than one, so the percentages are a little bit different. But for no change, it was about close to 11.5%, 12%. And then for adding a third day was 61, a little bit over 61, and then doing live streaming was about 65. It's interesting, as I said, that was the parent piece. The students one, the turnouts, the answers were not as, the numbers we did not have were not necessarily the same. The high school students was about 147 students, and I'm not going to read you the entire thing, but I will take you through to the back where they talked about 65% of the students wanted to be left alone. 60% wanted a third day, so they liked the in-person piece. And then about 27% asked for the live streaming. That was the high school. And then the middle school, which was a much smaller number of responses, it's 95 responses, probably out of close to 400. And just so you have it. And no changes was 39%. 47 wanted the third day, and then 30 wanted live streaming. So the reason I wanted to share this information is because we said we would do an assessment and reassess everything we were doing. So that's something that we wanted to look at as we were doing this. So saying that, based on everything you have here and everything we've talked about is, one, first of all, I'd like to thank our staff because I know they have been working tremendously hard during this time. And I had mentioned it earlier, this is not easy for anybody. People often use the word it's unprecedented times. That is exactly what this is. And we're continuing and trying to see how we can kind of look and make modifications to what we're doing. So as we go and look forward, we are looking to make some changes, or I guess progress really to the next step. So I'll start with this, and these would be my recommendations. Recommendation one is which we will be able to do, and I'm looking at these all as of right around October 26th, which would give us 2 weeks. All right? One would be the 6th grade comes in fully. We're looking to have the 6th grade in every single day. Now, one of the things we had looked at early on is this was always a goal of ours. The problem was becoming the number of classes. So now we started to look at it differently. We're going to use double the room space, and what I mean by that is the recommendation is we have 4 rooms that are double rooms. So we would be able to fit a full class in those because we're taking a double room now. So that would be one. We're also looking at the back gymnasium, which would be, which is not currently being used, and we're also looking at the library. So we currently have 6 sections or 6 teachers, whichever is easy for you to refer to. So we would make the recommendation that all the 6th grade comes in. Now saying that and building that into the schedule, it may put a study hall in some of the students' schedules, but as I said, one of our goals is to try to continuously bring students in. So that is one of our goals for starting the 26th. We still have a number of things to figure out. One is how you're handling the full virtual, and then making sure everything works with the schedule, especially in some of the specialty areas. But that is a goal of ours, and I think we're going to be able to meet that. The next piece is we are going to look to go live streaming, which I know is a lot of people, and even based on this, people have asked for. All right? Again, I do not necessarily think the live streaming is the end-all to be-all with this. I think it's going to come down to when we talk about instruction, right? So I think that becomes this. And because people are hearing the live streaming, one of the things we will do is we'll be able to bring more structure to the day. So if you're thinking about this, students would be responsible to follow the bell schedule. And that's something I'm going to talk about as well, because the bell schedule will change. Students will follow the bell schedule the days that they are not here. So half the students will be in and half of them still will be home from grades 7 through 12. Okay? Doing that, they'll have to log in. Now, it'll be up to the teacher. One thing that we continuously talk about, and I said I will put our teachers against any teachers on Long Island, that is for sure, is we continuously talk about good teaching. So they may log in. They may, at that point, the teacher will decide how they want that lesson to run. And what I mean by that is some lessons may be necessary for everyone to stay on the entire period. Some lessons may not, just as if you were in a classroom. For example, they may be doing group work. They may be doing station work. Those type of things may happen going live. So that's what you say. If the class is doing, say, a Socratic seminar, the whole class will be involved in it. If the teacher is doing a lecture and he or she wants to include it, it becomes that. So a lot of that is you're going to hear us continuously talk about good teaching. And really when it comes to that, it's about what is it we want the students to know and be able to do by the end of that period. How are they going to get there? And how they get there may be different each different day. That's typically what we do in our lessons. And then how do we know that the students are getting what we want them to get? And that's going to be the biggest piece with this. So now they will have access to their teacher every day. Engagement is still going to be very tricky because you're dealing with both in person and at home. But that is a model that we are looking to start, and it will come again as of the October 26th. And saying that is we're working on a letter that will either come from myself or Dr. Fulton, which will also include expectations. Expectations for students, expectations for parents, as we're going to be rolling this out. So we will get that out. It's something that I have put in the board's packet, so you'll have that just so you can see. And we're still kind of playing around with that as well. So that is something. The third recommendation would be, and it would happen the week after, so the week of November 2nd, would be the Wednesday day would become an in-person day now. What I mean by that is that the second, 7 through 12, is, and I don't remember blue or gold first, so I apologize for that. Blue might be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Gold would be Thursday, Friday. And then the following week, it would be Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So in doing this, these three recommendations, one is we'll be bringing, as I said, live interaction. We'll be bringing more students in. And then that Wednesday day will also become an in-person day. But really, as this has unfolded, it's really been a progression as we've been going along. It's been a process like no other that I've been through. I'd have to thank the staff because many people, as I mentioned earlier, throughout the summer, they gave all their time. Many people did not really have a summer, so I need to thank them for all their work. And this is just really the next step as we continue to take a look at what we're doing. We're trying to be very methodical. I know I use that word, but that is something that we're going to continue to do. As you see, and this will probably say, okay, this is makes some people happy. Other people like some of the flexibility, so this will be a change for some people as too. So we're going to have to get that information out. The last piece to this is that's come our way is, and we've been talking about this for a while, is also how do we provide extra support to some of our students. I do not have the answer to that. Dr. Fulton has been kind of charged in looking to that for students who we feel or who feel that they're struggling with the methodology or the model. So that is something we're going to continuously look at, and he's working on that currently. And he'll do that along with, again, he'll pull a number of stakeholders and work on that as we're going forward. This also will mean we'll have to take a look at the virtual model as well, because it may change a little bit for the 6th grade, especially because we're trying to bring them in. The 7th through 12th, it really shouldn't change anything because now they'll have the access to the teacher all day long, so that should be okay. So those are just some of the things that we have to look at. So really, I would just like to open it up to the board. I'll take questions from you, and then we'll go forward from there.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. Open it up to the trustees. Any questions about what Dr. Harney is recommending? Dr. Harney, I just want to thank the teachers. Thank you and your staff for everything you've done. I appreciate you reassessing and doing a survey and looking at the results and coming up with a way to continue to improve. So thank you to everyone for their time, especially the teachers. We truly appreciate it.
I think the last piece that goes into this is because a lot of the number of emails that I have received has to do with bringing everybody back. It's not as easy as that. And people often quote other districts or say to me, why is 3 Village able to do it? 3 Village is able to do it because they have bigger space. 3 Village is able to do it because they are 6 feet apart. You saw basically on our one positive case, by following the protocols that we have in place, we had a limited number of that needed to be quarantined. So I think that becomes very important here. If those change with the Suffolk County Department of Health, we will absolutely look to continue to bring more students in. But this is kind of the next progression as we're going forward. I had a meeting with the Suffolk County Department of Health last week. 2 superintendents asked the same question differently, which we often see people do. And the question was, hey, can we bring more kids in? Can we keep them in their face masks? And can we put like those sneeze guards out, the barriers that schools have spent a lot of money on? And they basically said they would not recommend that, not at this time. They continue to say that. As a matter of fact, they keep saying that the distance is better than the sneeze guard. So that's the biggest piece. So unless that changes, that's kind of still going to be my recommendation going forward. Okay?
Tim, thank you for all your hard work and your team's hard work. In these other districts who have gone to live streaming, has there been any direct communications with the teachers who have been implementing it, or has it just been filtered through administrators who say it's working? And if they say it's working, what metrics are they using to prove its success?
Yeah, I think I don't think they have the answer to that one. As I said, we've been here now 17 days, okay? The things that I have seen, and there are a number of districts that have started, what you'll see is a lot of districts, and I'm not going to name districts, right? But what you'll see is a lot of districts, they try to really kind of do things similar. And what I mean is progress at different times. So from schools, did not bring any of the elementary kids in right away. And now they're starting to bring in their first and second grade. Well, we said we felt we could do that right off the bat. So we did that right off the bat. So you're seeing some of that. You're seeing some of the students who basically started with more of asynchronous learning, and then a week later or 2 weeks later, they started to do some live streaming. Things you are seeing things. Now, this does bring more accountability to the student and even to the home now, correct? Because now, where we were providing, and that's one of the things we were talking about within our model, right? One of the things we were hoping was by providing all these videos that the teachers were putting together, students had time to go back and rewind and look at those things from an educational standpoint. Well, going fully live, if that's not part of that lesson now, that's not part of this now. And when we say live, we're really talking about you're not going to see the entire class. You're going to be seeing the smart board up front, right? You're going to be seeing that part. You'll be able to hear the teacher talking, those type of things. So a lot of the districts are still struggling with some of those. So I don't have all the answers to that, but I would tell you that there are people who are saying that it's working out well for them, and other people that would say, you know, I'm still struggling with A, B, and C. So that's why we're going to kind of, and if teachers want to start to play around with this before we do the full rollout, obviously, and we actually have teachers already who have been doing full live streaming stuff just because they've chose to do it on their own. Okay.
Again, thank you, Dr. Harney. We know this is a sensitive topic, and we appreciate all the thoughtfulness that went into this decision. But at this time, we will open it up for anyone with community new business. Mr. Richard? You can just come up to the dais, let us know where you're from.
Mr. Miller, I won't be using the microphone because there's no provisions for cleaning it here. And if you're familiar with the guidance document on reopening schools, you're not even supposed to use a contactless thermometer without having alcohol wipes. So I think we want to do our best to encourage public comment, and you have a microphone here, and we're all expected to touch it, and probably wouldn't think that's the best idea. So first and foremost, I know the board has heard quite a bit from me via email for the last week, and I don't believe that we've done our best to provide students with FAPE. Okay? We certainly haven't done our best to provide students with regular and substantive contact with teachers over the last 17 days. And I don't want to continue to repeat myself over and over again, but I am asking for something of the board tonight. And I appreciate everything that Dr. Harney's rolling out, and I get the sense that there's some urgency here. Okay? I think something needs to be done to remediate what happened for the last 17 days. I think that there needs to be some after-school program, an AIS, a workshop, something of that nature, where we choose focus standards on what kids missed between March and June, and now what they missed from day one of school to up until today, or up until the 26th of October, when the kids are going to be able to have more than 40% contact with their teachers. And I'm asking for the board's support tonight. All right, I don't want to scream and yell about all the things that I've seen in my house asynchronously. I don't want to talk about the distress that I think my kids are under. I'm going to simply ask this of the superintendent and the board, please, I'm begging you, please do something for these kids so that we can catch them up to where they belong, where they're supposed to be. My 8th grade daughter is in algebra and in earth science. She's taking high school classes that are going to be on her transcript right now, and I don't know in 2 days a week how we're accomplishing anything close to what those standards are. So again, 2 days a week would represent 40% of their instruction. We can do better than that. This is a blue ribbon school district, and I'm asking that the board please allot some funds, find some staff, develop some focus standards, and do something to help our kids. That's what I believe to be important right now.
Thank you, Mr. Short. I would just say that Dr. Harney did say we were looking into different avenues, and I'm sure Dr. Harney will update the board in the near future.
Okay, Mr. Miller, I just want to point this out. I think this is a matter of urgency. Okay? Every day that goes by, the kids fall further and further behind. The asynchronous assignment that my daughter received this evening via Edpuzzle, she was unable to accomplish because she did not have any instruction. There was no direct contact with a teacher. She could not do it. Fortunately, I have access to math teachers because of my profession, and I was able to provide her with support from a colleague of mine. But that's not every household, and I don't think that's reasonable. If you saw the type of distress that this is placing on my kids, I believe that the board might find some urgency in doing something about this immediately.
Only thing I would say that Mr. Richard is I see it very differently. This is a sense of urgency. Dr. Horney did do a survey. He is polling the school district. He is looking to reassess. We are looking to improve. I don't think it's a fair statement to say there's no sense of urgency here.
I didn't say there was no sense of urgency. I said there should be a greater sense of urgency. Okay? And beyond that, Mr. Miller, there was no discussion about how we plan to remediate that. There's been no discussion about what the focus standards are, about how we're going to approach this for kids. None. There's been no feedback whatsoever from the district to parents about what is being taught with the 40% of time that they're in school. So I'm asking this respectfully. Okay? I'm asking, again, that the board please do something about this. Right now, my kids, and I'm sure many others, are falling behind in a curriculum that's going to impact their future down the road. Okay? Again, my daughter's high school transcript begins this year. It started on September 11th. Okay? And we're nowhere near where we're supposed to be after the first month. All right? So please, I'm asking, please do something about it. Please don't put it on the back burner. I know there's a lot of other things happening here, but to get them caught up is going to be a heavy lift.
Well, Mr. Richard, I appreciate that. And one of the things I would like to say is, one, is nobody took anything very casual. Entire summer, people worked as hard as they can, and a lot of effort and thought went into everything. And as I said, as we started to plan everything going forward, is, yes, do we want to take a look at things and tweak them? We absolutely do. And as I mentioned earlier, are we going to take a look at ways that we can remediate if that's what we need to do? We absolutely do. But I do think we have a blue ribbon staff. I absolutely do. And I will back them completely, and we're going to continue to push and go forward, and we're going to be very methodical about how we're doing. So I agree with you in the sense of we need to continue to take a look at, and I can promise you that's what we're going to do.
And Dr. Harney, when I say blue ribbon district, I'm not pointing my fingers at the staff. I'm saying this very clearly. I very much appreciate what this district has done for my kids from the moment I moved here, from the day that they were born. Okay? And I fully understand that that was not in everyone's control what happened between March and June. But ultimately, decisions were made over the summer that resulted in my kids and many others receiving 40% of a school week of worth of interaction, whether it be synchronous, asynchronous, or in person. And I'm going to leave it here and just say, I'm asking, please, I think that we can certainly find the funds, we certainly have the space, and we certainly have the talented teachers to provide the kids with the support, and that's all I'm asking for.
Thank you, Mr. Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other community new business?
Can you hear me? I don't mind. My name is Allison Carroll from Bayport. I just have a couple questions. I know we keep saying that I'm very happy, first of all, just rewind, sorry. I'm very happy to know that we're moving in this direction. I too, still here. I am at the end of the arc spectrum. I have a freshman and a senior. So I am in that moment. It's a very frightening place to be right now as you're trying to look at college with half a junior year and in a senior year going to school 2 days a week. I'm not really sure how or what the measure is to figure out how to get our kids back full-time. I know that is part of the goal. I'm not comparing us to other school districts. I'm not. Dr. Harney, I've served on many committees with you, and I know your methodology and how you are meticulous about everything that you do. So I do think, and I know that this board and this community does work to do what's best for kids. I just have to say that I have a son who struggles in school. This has been a real challenge. I'm struggling, he's struggling, and I just don't see, even just from being in this board meeting, a board meeting is different like this than when I've been home for many other board meetings sitting at my kitchen table, watching this or listening to it on a live stream. I just really feel that unless we start to make more moves quicker, and I understand October 26th, we'll make it till then, but I really just worry even further about the long run, what it's going to be. I know you said you were going to speak a little bit to that advisory period. I don't know if that's going to be over now if we move to this new model. If that's going to be, that time will be gone. But my kids do go to that advisory period. I think you talked about maybe making some sort of like a contract about it, but I think we have to definitely come to a better place where kids, teachers, et cetera, earn a mutual respect. My kids go onto their advisory, their teachers don't have their cameras on. My kids have gone to extra help sessions, their cameras aren't on. We're really trying, and I just want to make sure that if we do move to this next phase, that we're all on the same page, because it's a lot. I'm paying for a high school or college student to come to my house on the days I'm not home. My husband and I both work. It's just a lot, and I feel like we can do better. It's not about the teachers, it's not about the technology. I just think we have to get it together in a more comprehensive way so that the kids have a better shot at this, because it's just too long. It's just been too long, and I just feel like I've seen so much regression in my own children, and I just don't think I can do it much more.
Thank you so much. If you just give us 1 second, we will clean that microphone. Mr. Rashad, we were going to do that, though.
Thank you. Hi, how are you? My name is Jamie Badalato, and I am a teacher, so I thought maybe I'd address what you were saying before. I happen to be in a district that has been using synchronous and asynchronous days live teaching since March of last year. I am now in a district that has gone to full virtual learning, live streaming every single day in the classroom. You know, we do have the same hybrid for the high school, because I am a high school teacher. The elementary school, actually K through 8 are all in the building. But we understand that we are a small district with small spacing, so clearly we can't get everybody in the building. But as for the live teaching, and speaking to what you were just saying, having the kids on a bell schedule where they are able to meet live stream with their teachers every day. Now, my kids are on my projector. We can see them, they're participating, they're a live part of daily class instruction. Okay, the same lesson I am presenting in the class, presenting my screen, anything that we are doing, they are getting. They do not miss a beat. Now, one of the things that we do have at my school that we do not have here, yes, we have advisory in the morning, but I'm going to be 100% honest. When you're posting assignments at 8 a.m., those children, when they log in Thursday and Friday, they can't log on at 8 a.m. and ask questions because they've seen the material for the first time. We need to do a better job if they're going to do that, then post the homework the night before, so therefore they have the equal opportunity to get on for advisory. But it's not really a great place for them to be asking for extra help if kids are logging in and the teachers are distracted from the purpose of helping. There needs to be an extra help schedule. And Mr. Richard was just talking about this. There needs to be another period after school, whether it's extra help or they log on virtually, where they can get that support. But yes, if we are moving towards a full live stream, it's going to be extremely crucial, especially if we do have to go home again, where they are home full time. They have already practiced this method of being with their teacher period after period, getting used to logging in, showing their face, because they shouldn't be getting credit unless they are showing their faces. Okay, it's important. And especially having a child too, that's at Blue Point, that has a full-blown IEP and needs help, we also need to address how are we going to make sure that those children are receiving their services when we do go back to, unfortunately, if we have to home instruction. Okay, so there's a lot of things, but I think that the right step that you're making is getting to this live instruction, because it is imperative for these children to be receiving an education and having contact. And I will say there are a couple teachers who get back to us, but we've sent a lot of private messages on Google Classroom, and I'm still waiting for responses 2 weeks after we've sent the messages. So that the communication, they kept saying it last night at open house, is key. Communication is key. I know that I get back to my parents and my students immediately because I know that they need the support because they are stressed in this current situation. So if we could really get the teachers on board, and you were just asking too, how is it working? There are breakout rooms. Those kids can be in Google Classroom. They're in their own meets within the classroom that I'm overseeing. They're communicating. Kids in the class are participating with the kids at home. It is incredible what they can do. So as for live teaching, it needs to be what we're doing here in Bayport because our kids deserve it. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else like to go to the microphone?
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Chris Cavuto. I've been a resident of Bayport since 2010. I have 2 children at our schools. My daughter is in 5th grade at Academy Street. My son, Alexander, who is here with me tonight, is in 7th grade at the middle school. A few days ago when I heard we were going to have this meeting, I mentioned it at the kitchen table. And 2 days ago, Alexander, unbeknownst to me, decided he wanted to talk. So I'm going to hand the mic over to him at 12 years old, and you can hear what he has to say. And then I'll pick it up from there.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I've known you heard parents saying how they think things should be changed in schools to make it better for the overall experience of students here in Bayport Blue Point. But tonight I have something different for you. A student's perspective, my perspective, on what I think should be changed in the district in order to make it a better overall experience for students. My name is Alexander Cavuto. I'm in 7th grade at JWI Middle School, and I've been in the district since kindergarten. I've always had a high 90 average, and I was excited to keep it here in 7th grade. But right now, I am struggling to keep that dream alive. If it were up to me, I would be in school 5 days a week full-time. And I'm hearing that nearby towns are doing this. And so I ask myself, why can't we do this here in Bayport? Right now, we're getting a third of the in-person schooling we would normally get. We are not able to learn as much as we normally would, and we are not able to grasp the concepts that we are learning as well. A 5-day in-person option would make all of these things disappear and would make many students happy to see their teachers 5 days a week and not have to stare at a computer screen in order to learn hours a day. Three Village, and along with many other neighboring districts, have already implemented these changes. If a 5-day in-person plan is not put into place, live streaming would be an amazing thing to replace that. This would make it easier to implement because you have Google Meet and you do not have to worry about security issues. Teachers would have to do half as much work because Blue Team and Gold Team would be learning simultaneously and synchronized, so you would not have to prepare 2 lessons and only 1. Students can also get instant feedback for their teachers if they have a question. I have waited hours on end for teachers to respond to my questions about homework, classwork, and anything else. We need instant feedback in order to understand the work fully. This is an extremely easy way to make learning easier for students overall by implementing these changes. Along with this, many neighboring districts have already implemented live streaming, and overall will be a great addition. The 50-minute advisory period at the beginning of every day is an unnecessary use of 50 minutes. I've never seen any child in my advisory go onto a Google Meet with a teacher to go over something during advisory. Why? Because nobody wants to talk to a teacher about the square root of 64 where 16 other kids can hear about it. When I arrive at 8:35 in a school day, about 25% of the class is there. Mainly, the people in my advisory are arriving between 8:40 and 8:50, that 10-minute window. The school day feels 10 times shorter overall because of this advisory, because it's sucking time away from normal school hours. A very simple solution is to minimize the advisory to 15 minutes at max. Wednesdays are a waste of a day, in my opinion, and the elementary school is in 5 days in person with no cleaning days, so why would we need one? Taking the Wednesdays and using them as alternating in-person days between teams is a great way to increase learning time if a 5-day plan is not put into place, and will be a great addition overall. Lastly, in band, we are not allowed to play instruments during the actual band period. There is only time to playing instruments in school when we have lessons, which results in us playing instruments for 30 minutes every other week, which is not enough time for us in order to get feedback from our band teacher in order to play with other students as well to see how we sound as a group. This virus will never disappear. The recovery rate for somebody from 0 to 18 is 99.93%. If you get this virus, you will most likely be okay. I took it upon myself this morning to put together a petition and send it out to every single person in my contacts. I also had them send it to their parents, and their parents send it to their friends. It is already up to almost 100 submissions. There are people in this district that want these changes. Thank you all for listening to my ideas on how we can improve the overall learning experience for students here at Bayport Blue Point. I think all of these things would make a great thing in order to make the overall experience better. Thank you.
First, if I could just say thank you so much. I know how hard it is to come up here and speak. I don't know how hard it is to speak as a 12-year-old, but I give you a lot of credit, and I think how about one more round of applause just for the courage to come up here. I would just say you mentioned a couple things about 5 days a week with the regulations the way they are. I think everyone would love to be in school 5 days a week. Everyone up here would love if we could have students in here 5 days a week. Unfortunately, with the regulations, that just unfortunately cannot work with the social distancing and the 6 feet. And also band, I can see how frustrating band or chorus may be to students. In the school district I work in, it's frustrating. But you have to be 12 feet for band or chorus. Inside a classroom, it does not allow a lot of students in one classroom. So we concur with the frustration with band. We concur with the 5 days. Unfortunately, this is not a Bayport Blue Point thing. This is a New York State thing. I hope you can understand that. But again, I give you a lot of credit for coming up on the microphone. You spoke very well, and I give you a lot of credit for the courage.
Thank you. I just forgot to mention one thing. In order to play instruments more, I think we should definitely be utilizing the ginormous parking lot and field we have outside the middle school. We can be playing instruments outside when the weather permits, and we can be 12 feet apart and playing safely.
Thank you, Alex.
Just a quick couple of things real quick. So first of all, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And because you made me think of things that I had left out. One was, and I think I've even said this to your father in the past, it would be much easier for us to have all your kids here, for all the students to hear. There's no doubt about it. It's absolutely. So that is going to continuously be a goal, but we are playing within some certain restrictions. We heard you about the Wednesday, so that is something that we are moving to, absolutely. The one thing I left out when we talked about going to the live, it is going to change the schedule of the day, all right, for the secondary students. The advisory period, which was originally put into place, the idea so we could have that interaction every single day. Obviously, that was putting a lot on the students, so we started to take a look at that. The other reason for it was so as we were first doing the arrival to school so that we can kind of manage it. We feel like we're in a good place now, so the actual day, the periods are going to go back to 40 minutes a period. The advisory period will go back to the typical at the middle school, 10, 15 minutes, I believe it is. And then the high school will just have what used to be their homeroom. It will be attached to that first period. So the schedules and the times of the periods are going to change. Just so you know, I forgot to mention that earlier when I talked about it. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Harney, and thank you to the board, and thank you to my son for speaking. Again, I didn't put him up to this. I didn't tell him what to say. He decided on his own to do this. And Dr. Harney, you've mentioned a number of things tonight that I actually had in my remarks, so I'm going to say my remarks, but a lot of things are going to be repeated, and if it's something that you said, take that as I'm supporting you and I'm agreeing with you. And again, I want to thank the district for taking the necessary steps that were needed to provide our elementary school students, including my daughter, with full-time in-person schooling 5 days a week. I believe, like many, there's absolutely no substitute for full-time in-person in-school learning. I would also like to commend the district for changing their original plan to include the full virtual option for those families who wanted that for their children. It is important that you consider the differing opinions of all parents when you reevaluate and reassess the plan moving forward. Speaking of the secondary schools, I still feel that the schooling plan currently in place at the secondary level is completely unacceptable. I echo the comments of Mr. Richard. And like I said, I agree with you, Dr. Harney. It sounds like you have some good solutions moving forward. But my 7th grade son is receiving in-person and instruction 2 days a week with the bell schedule currently in place, including the 50-minute advisory period. He's actually receiving only a third of the core academic in-class instruction compared to what he had been receiving in the past. Our model as it stands, like Mr. Richard mentioned, simply does not provide adequate direct instruction, and it lacks regular and substantial interaction with teachers. This is something that is specifically mentioned in the New York State COVID-related reopening guidance. Due to this fact, the district is simply not doing its job and is currently not in compliance with the state-mandated guidelines. The fix is clear, and it seems like you folks keep disagreeing with it, but I'm asking you to consider opening our high school and middle school to all students 5 days a week. for those who want to attend. I keep hearing that we can't do it, we don't have the space. I'm sorry, I just reject that statement, which keeps getting repeated. I'm sure you're aware, and you mentioned it, there's districts that are doing it, big and small. Three Village, Hauppauge, Bethpage, just to name a few. Every week I hear more districts changing their plans to switch to and move towards full-time in-person for more grades, for more students. These districts have committed to doing whatever it takes to get their kids back into the schools. None of them have built any new buildings. None of them have magically enlarged their existing ones. They're doing things like using student safety devices such as clear plastic desk partitions and staggering schedules and utilization of outdoor spaces for classrooms and even hallways to get this accomplished. Dr. Harney, you even said the Suffolk Department of Health said they would not recommend using shields. They didn't say they would prohibit it. Districts are using them. They're getting their kids in the schools. I think we need to do that here. I'm urging you to make this happen for our children here in Bayport Blue Point. Let's lead by example and not be lagging behind while many other districts, while we're trying to play catch up. Like you said, if after reevaluating the plan, you feel that full-time in-person schooling is unattainable, the only acceptable solution would be to a fully synchronous 5-day-a-week learning model using live streaming of classrooms. This is something which I personally asked about at the first district-wide meeting on our schooling plan. A clear answer as to why we haven't done this for 3 weeks still hasn't been provided. Many neighboring districts are doing this. Sable's doing it. We're not doing it here. Why aren't we doing this already? It's 3 weeks, almost 4 weeks wasted. Absent a full-time in-person schooling plan, a synchronous live streaming model should be implemented immediately. There's no reason to wait 2 more weeks. It can be implemented using existing technology. Alexander could set it up for you in about 5 minutes. It should be implemented 5 days a week. I agree with you. Wednesdays need to be used for instructions. They should be used alternating. The synchronous learning model would also mean a synchronous teaching model, which should make the lives of our great teachers here in Bayport Blue Point easier. And I would hope that the teachers and the union would get behind this plan as well. We owe it to our students and our children to give them the education and schooling experience which they deserve now. Don't wait. I implore you to make these changes to the schooling model immediately. On one final and personal note, since the virus effectively shut down our schools, I have personally done all I can to read up on the latest COVID-related information coming from around the world on all sides of the discussion. I have also personally seen what is going on in real time since the beginning as an essential first responder. I base my opinions on data-driven and factual information, and at the end of the day, all I want is to see what I feel is best for my children, our family, and the community as a whole. I have no hidden agenda. My opinions are not politically motivated and not laced with self-interest. Again, I only want what is best for my children. I'm urging you to do the same. We get one chance at educating our children. One, please make these changes immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to...
Sorry. Mr. Cavuto, thank you very much. The one thing I can say, and I do agree with you, is first of all, everybody here at Bayport Blue Point wants what's best for the students. There is no doubt about that. So please do not doubt that, because that is something that everybody here, staff, they are continuously working to do. The model, I explained why we went with the model that we did in the beginning. I gave you all the areas that were considered when we talked about it. We said we would take a look at it. That's exactly what we're going to do. And again, as we're making these changes, there's still, as you said, this is not a perfect situation, that is for sure, right? And for everything that is going on, but we're going to continue to move and progress as we go forward.
Thank you.
I appreciate the feedback.
Thank you. Very similar, I was going to say, we all care about students here. We want what's best for them. The reopening plan, a lot of time and effort went into that, so I do want to thank that committee and thank the union and Dr. Horney for everything they've done. The survey was put out there to get feedback. That is what Dr. Horney and his team has done, and we're going to reassess and continue to improve. Anyone else? Ms. McCormick?
Good evening. I'm here to speak on behalf of my children who are in full virtual. I would like to say my youngest, who's in elementary school, Miss Ampalo, the 5th grade teacher, is doing a phenomenal job, and the synchronous learning, the live teaching, the whole day is amazing. Although my daughter would say, it's not, but she is learning. She is able to interact with her peers at home through live learning, and that's been a great experience. Middle school, it's kind of like a mystery. Some teachers are great at giving instructions, videos, and following up. Other teachers aren't. I'm not going to say who is who and doing what, but I would like to ask the board and Dr. Harney, was there training involved with the virtual part? Because I'm sure, on the in-home instruction days, they're going through the same thing, the kids at home that are learning. Was there training for the teachers to or is there a protocol and say, videotape your instructions, put it on there, explain? Because some teachers are doing it and some teachers aren't. So I'd like to understand so that I can go back to the teachers and ask for more direction, instructions, and find out what it is that they're responsible for.
So this would be my suggestion. First is, yes, there's been a large amount of professional development, beginning from even last spring, and that's something Dr. Fulton has overseen, has done a tremendous job with it. We have a technology person who's been working with them on a regular basis. My suggestion would be is if you have specific situations, I would reach out to Mr. Andruskowitz, have the conversation with him. If there's specific things you want to kind of talk about related to specific staff members.
Okay. In addition to lab work, is that something that I as a parent should reach out to the teacher to say, is there materials can be sent home? Or is it something that the teacher should be proactive and say there's materials be picked up? I'm just trying to understand how you're supposed to do lab work for science.
Ms. McCormick, I think these questions will be much more acceptable with a one-on-one meeting with the principal in regards to situations such as issues with your students.
So each teacher, so I should reach out to each teacher regarding their protocols and
I think you should reach out to Mr. Andruskowitz and have a one-on-one meeting with the middle school principal, and you guys could have that conversation, and I'm sure he will lead you in the right direction.
Okay, but as a district as a whole, there's not a set protocol to follow?
If you're asking if we're dictating how each teacher teach, no, and I wouldn't do that if they were in person either. Okay, so that is one of the things that we talked about. So even as we're moving on is, and you know this, within each class, right, obviously the goals are, and I talked about it earlier, is we talked about, teaching in terms of what is the objective, how are we getting them there, how do we know that the students are getting, that's what we're really talking about. So the approach or the methodology that a teacher uses will vary from class in the classroom, just as it did when we were live. Some teachers, as I said before, might use station teaching. Some teacher might use a lecture format. Some teacher may use a Socratic seminar. These are their choices based on the activity that they're doing, based on the curriculum that they're working in. They are the professionals. They do a tremendous job here, so that kind of still falls into here. So if you have specific questions about a class, yes, I would always suggest reaching out to the teacher first. If that's not your answer, then reach out to the building principal and we'll help you there.
All right, sounds good, thank you. And I also have another question in regards to, is Mr. Clayton here, or is?
Mr. Clayton is not here. We do have Mr. McCarthy here, but I'm not sure. We don't really direct questions to the attorney, but I guess what is your concern?
I just wanted to see if there was a policy on FERPA on our school website that I can discuss and address in terms of privacy and confidentiality safety protocols from our district.
I did send you that policy. If you want to send Mr. Leva an email, he will send it to you again, but there was a policy written on that, and if they want further clarification, I would say we have to set up a meeting and to discuss that, and then we can recommend to the board changes if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McCormick. Next.
Hi, my name is Michael Bianchini. I've been in town for about 23 years. I usually don't say anything. I usually sit back and I let things take their course, because if you don't let things take their course, you don't learn. But I'll go back to last year. When this all first happened and the virus came, and to this day, not many people agree with me. In my heart, I know this was, how do I say, it's not a real virus. I'm not even going to get into the virus. I'm going to get into, I had a senior last year that lost her senior softball season. And what happened was, when it came to APs, now I'm going to get into the school part. She is a kid that takes everything personal. She got no review for her APs, and I know last year was a different situation. I totally get it. But I saw my kid break down. Now, when I see my kids break down, then I got to step in. I have a middle school kid this year, sixth grade. He went from 4th grade to 6th grade, if you all know what I mean. And I don't speak for anybody else's parents. All right? I've seen him go completely backwards because he needs more instruction. If he doesn't get to 5 days soon, he's going to be in 3rd grade school-wise. I know one child doesn't make a difference, but it has to at some point, because there's got to be other parents out there that just don't want to say anything. He had 3 hours of work for one class today. Now, today was his day home. Why did he get 3 hours of work? Would he get 3 hours of work in that class in school for today? Can somebody answer that for me before I go to my next point?
It's hard for me to talk to specifics, and if there's individual things you want to meet with myself or the building principal about, I will be more than happy to. Without having all the details and without speaking to the teacher, it's tough for me to answer.
Understood. And I'm not complaining about the teachers at all, believe me. Their job's got to be just as hard as these kids trying to learn with this hybrid, which to me, I don't know, it shouldn't even be here. Because like the young man said, everybody talks about kids transmitting the disease, being asymptomatic. Asymptomatic doesn't matter. I've spoken to many doctors. But now, my next thing is, they say mass work, right? Everybody agree with me here? Mass work, that's what they say. Why can't our kids be in school with masks on and have 5 days a week? They're not taking their masks off. They're not allowed. My son was actually told the first 2 days of school in middle school, during lunch, he took his mask off to eat. He couldn't talk. I don't get it. Can you explain that part? Why can't he talk with his mask off if he's 6 feet away from somebody? The rule is 6 feet. If you're 6 feet, you don't need a mask. That's the rule. I mean, the CDC changes every day, but that's the rule, correct?
I wouldn't call it a rule. I mean, there are various protocols. And as you talk about, for example, I meet with the Suffolk County Department of 3-4 times a week based on different things. And I can tell you this, if we were less than 6 feet, okay, the one thing I can talk to is the positive case we had the other day. That's the one thing I do know, right?
There's going to be positive cases no matter what.
I agree with you. And that's where you're absolutely right.
They hit everybody.
If I can just finish.
Sorry.
So what you would see, though, is if the students were less than 6 feet, you would have had a ton more students quarantined that day. Because of the protocols and procedures that were in place, we had a very small number, so we could operate the rest of the school. Otherwise, you're going to be closing the schools on a regular basis. So that becomes part of the conversation. So it's kind of, all right, you might get this, but this may happen as well. So that's why everything is considered when we're looking at this.
Okay, I get that. But then why does... Hey, you know what? I'm realizing everything I'm saying, most of these parents already know. All these kids should be back in school. And speaking for myself, my son's going backwards. He's not getting an education with the hybrid. He's not. Last year, he didn't do half his work because he didn't know how, because me and my wife were both working. Because if we both don't work, we can't pay property taxes, we can't pay our mortgage, we can't pay our bills. So he didn't do half his work, but he passed. I would rather have him say he failed so he can do it again. So we're just going to, like even right now, he turns things in late and everybody says, oh, it's okay. It's not okay for me because he's not learning responsibility. earlier, and I appreciate what you guys are doing with the sixth grade, that you're trying to do that. I really do. That'd be great. But until that point, every day he goes backwards. Maybe there's something we could do with that. I don't even know anymore. Because I hear masks work, masks don't work. Masks work, masks don't work. 6 feet work, 6 feet don't work. Now the CDC comes out and says that you got to be 10 feet away. I mean, Governor Cuomo, not for nothing. I just think that guy just sits in his house with a crayon and goes, this is what we're doing next. And you guys have to abide by that. That's not right either. But, you know, I appreciate your time. Let's just, the term back when my daughters were in school was no student left behind. Let's not leave these kids behind that are having trouble learning this way. Virtual is not going to help either, because you need in-person instruction to learn. You need sports to learn. You learn more in sports. The sport thing, I don't even want to get into, but you learn more in sports than you do in school. You learn how to live. You learn how to survive. You learn how to work as a team. Guys, good luck with your decision. Again, I appreciate everything you did with the sixth grade. I hope it works out that way. And just remember, there is going to be positive cases because we got hid from the virus. Viruses have to take their course. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's always, I'm going to be 52 years old, and ever since growing up, viruses have to take their course. Maybe everybody should get it. I know I'm a little out of hand, I'm a little out of bounds at times, but it is what it is. Guys, thank you. And
Thank you, sir.
Don't leave any kids behind, guys. Really. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to try this out. Ms. Byrne, who is on the Chromebook, would like to speak. I don't know how well this is going to work, but Ms. Byrne, please try speaking to see if we can hear.
Hi, everybody.
Can you guys hear this?
I just really quickly want to thank everyone for coming. And I wish I could be there. I'm home because I have one of the 11 high school students that was in quarantine. And as much as I wish we could be back 5 days a week, I don't want this to happen to anyone else's children. It's a really terrible situation. The kid's supposed to stay in their rooms or have a mask at all times. Anyway, thank you, and I'm so sorry to hear about what everyone's going through, and we will do our best to make changes that we're going to really help improve the situation, and we'll try and do everything we can to change things for the better, and I'm really sorry to hear what you're all struggling with.
Thank you, Ms. Byrne. At this time, we will go to our student delegate, Mr. Honey.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll be quick. So last week and the week before, the high school had its Spirit Week. There were different themes ranging from like Superhero Day to Blue and Gold Day. I thought it was pretty productive at boosting school spirit in the absence of what would have been around our homecoming, which I believe there are still plans for future down the line in the school year. The Triumph Music Honor Society held its elections this morning, along with the yearbook and the Interact Club, and many other clubs have started meeting virtually. From what I have heard, have been very productive. CB's is holding a virtual talent show at the end of the month, from which students of all age levels across the district are able to participate in if they choose to. Gym classes have been able to utilize the outdoor track and turf on all days, weather permitting, to allow for phys ed classes to be held while adhering to social distancing guidelines. Jazz band will hopefully be starting up again soon, although a little different than years prior. And the open houses for the middle school and high school, from what I've heard from parents and parents' friends, have gone very well. And I know students have also said the same, that they've heard the same from their parents. And many high school seniors and juniors have taken the SAT and ACT over the past 2 weeks. Our school hosting both the September 29th and October 3rd dates, as well as ones in the near future. And then the last thing I have is that the guidance department is meeting with students in the senior class to assist in college search, as well as other post-college plans. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Honey. Any questions from trustees for Mr. Honey? Not hearing
Were you
any.
guys able to toilet paper the school at all this year, or no? No? All right.
Dr. Harney, just two questions from YouTube. In regards to someone feels like there is a lot of time in class for students taking tests or quizzes. Is there something we can do to reassess this?
What I would suggest, because I don't know the specific situations, I would reach out to the building principal, but I also think by going live, that will address some of that. But I would suggest reaching out to the building principal or within the teachers within the classroom. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. And in regards to middle school special education students going full-time?
Yeah, it's something that we've actually we've been talking about, and one of the things I must say is this entire topic is something we literally talk about every single day regarding any type of changes we can make to the model, just so people are aware of that. It is something that we are continuously discussing right now. I don't have the answer to that one specifically, but I know that has been a discussion point for us.
Thank you, Dr. Harney. Dr. Harney, we're going to turn it back over to you for a school lunch presentation. I know Ms. Hall is here.
Yeah, I'm going to turn that over to Ms. Hall, who's our director for our lunch program. So, turn it over to you. Okay, Chris, it's yours.
Good evening, everyone. Is it on? Can you hear me? Okay, I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you to the Board of Education. Thank you to Tim. Thank you, administration, for your support of school lunch. And I would like to take some of your time tonight to go over our online ordering feature that is new for the students this year. So I'm going to give a brief introduction to the company that has supplied us with our online ordering feature, why we're doing online ordering, our menu platform, our web menu platform, what our site looks like, and some of the features that you'll see. Thank you. Hi. Sorry. Okay. It's on. So Link is the company that hosts our website. They've been in business for more than 31 years. They work exclusively with K through 12 technology. They serve over 2,200 districts across the U.S. They do also work closely with Eastern Suffolk BOCES, as well as many districts on Long Island. Traditionally, school lunch has not changed for decades. I know for myself, I've seen many changes, the most changes over the past year. Over the past year, we talked about starting an online mobile ordering app for the students. And initially, we were thinking of rolling it out to just the seniors to try, but in light of everything and this unprecedented time that we all speak about, we felt it was necessary for the secondary levels and has proven to be very helpful in many different ways. We wanted to keep up with the food technology trends such as DoorDash and Grubhub. I'm sure many of your kids have used their technologies, and we thought it would be a nice addition for this technology here in keeping in line with everything else and something that the students would really be excited about. Approximately 75% of schools on Long Island have moved towards this technology, which has become more of an industry standard in all of the schools. And obviously now more than ever, the app will help assist us in so many different ways. So a lot of the things that we see, it is allowing for shorter lunch lines, especially on our deli side in the high school, which is our busier side. It's allowing students without a lunch period to be able to have the opportunity to pre-order their lunch so they don't have to wait in line, whether they're in chorus or band, or maybe they don't have a lunch because they're doubling up on classes. It allows for better planning on the production end. It allows easy access to nutritional information, which I'll get into in a little bit, and perhaps more important, allergen information. I know a lot of the parents call me on a day-to-day basis just to go over different items that are on our menu, if there's certain allergens in them, just to double check. So it kind of gives them their own opportunity to look up this information. It helps to coordinate meal pickup times, both in person and remote. The students will be able to still order a la carte items at the secondary level. It also helps to maintain a social distance in our cafe. We have a grab-and-go window where the students pre-order and they can just go and grab. There's no line, there's no waiting. It helps to manage different varying efforts in our different buildings. So, for example, in the middle school, because the sixth graders are eating in their classrooms, it's allowing them to pre-order. They can choose at checkout where they want their orders, and our staff is able to deliver it to them. So it's been a big help for that, which we will obviously do the same thing if and when the sixth graders come back full-time. Students and parents are also able to see their balances at a glance. This is updated for them. And the online ordering platform also allows us to easily keep up with the fluid state of everything that is going on right now, whether we are all in school, we have a blended learning model, or hopefully we don't have to use an all remote model. So there is always access for the students to use the online ordering feature. The online ordering and where to find it. iSight's digital menu platform is accessed through the main website for Bayport Bluepoint. The look is seamless. And you find it in the same spot you've always found it, under the News and Info tab for school food and nutrition. How many people here have seen the school lunch site? By show of hands? Okay. So you can see how, you can see where to find it, and it's just, like it always was. We've been able to customize the app and online ordering with our daily planned menus for each school. And when you look at the menus for each of the schools, they each have a different look and some different items too. So the online ordering feature also allows us to add on a la carte items. I want to go back on. Here we go. So this is what, for those who haven't seen it, if you log in, this is what you'll see on our school district's school lunch website. You can see that it's so much more interactive than it was previously. We have links to our summer meal programs, links to the free and reduced meal applications. Below that, I know you can't see it here, but there's links to a slideshow of different things that we've done so far in school lunch. You can see the different tabs up top. You can look for menus, prepayment options. We have links to nutrition and fitness, links to nutrition education, and many other things that make it more interactive for parents, and even things that they can do at home with their kids. Our menu allows for easy online ordering access. So if you were to take a look at our middle school menu, that's what this is a sample of. You can see in the upper right-hand corner where it says online ordering. And if you click on that link, it will bring you to set up an account for your student or for your child. Or if the student is setting up an account, they can just do that. Another feature that I talked about earlier is that it allows parents to see what the items are that we have for lunch and the nutrient content in it. as well as any of the special meal accommodations for allergens. And also there is a rating system for the students to rate the different items that we do sell, in hopes that we can use that for future planning and put more items on the menu that the kids like. Our new site not only offers interactive menus, but as I said, links to nutrition, nutrition and fitness, nutrition education. Parents can easily navigate through our site and look at the different links. And as I said, is much more interactive than it used to be. The online ordering app can be accessed through a smartphone or the Chromebook. A lot of the students at the higher grades have signed on themselves and have been using the online ordering feature. But we also have a handful of parents who have signed up for their kids at the younger grades in 6th and 7th grade. Hopefully in the future, this will be something that I will introduce to also at the elementary level. And I feel at that level, the parents will be much more involved with that and signing up their children for lunch meals in the future. And it will also involve the teachers, and they'll have access just to make sure that if a student didn't order a meal, that they actually get one. So teachers will also be involved. So this is what you would see when you log into your account and you're signing up your children for meals. You can enroll as many children as you want, as long as it's in the secondary level, because we didn't roll it out in the elementary level yet. But you can see, you can order daily or weekly, and you can see that at a glance. Keeping in line with the National School Lunch Program, for offer versus serve, the children are not able to check out their meal without choosing the side options, including vegetable, fruit, and a milk. So it's considered a reimbursable meal at that point. This is just another look at what the online ordering feature looks like and what you would see if you wanted to look for the nutrient content on the Chromebook. Students are also able to pick a pickup location, whether it is in a classroom at the 6th grade level, at the grab-and-go window at the high school level, or the middle school level. And we also have a choice for remote learners to pick up their meals at the high school at the remote pickup. Also, when parents create an account and the students, the balance information is readily seen, as you can see, and there is a link for parents to quickly add money to a student account if need be. Again, this is at the elementary level. Teachers will have access if needed in the future to make sure every student who needs a meal is signed up to get one. It's just to double check that the students aren't going without a meal. So they would just log in and choose a meal for the student. We are also able to put in ordering rules where we have cutoff times for obvious reasons for production and things like that. So we have set rules for parents and students to order by 9 a.m. There are also blackout days that we can put in there so that parents aren't ordering for kids when school is not in session. Now, what does it look like on the smartphone? You can see here, again, if you're signing up all the way to the left, that's what it would look like on your smartphone. The next column is what it would look like for the students, then how you would order, and then where you would go to check out for your pickup locations, and then you would just place your order. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Hall. We appreciate the presentation. We'll open up to the board for any questions. Any community members with any questions? Yes, sir. We're almost done, and at the end, we'll come to you, Mr. Trombino.
Thank you.
Ms. Hall, I'd just like to thank you for all your work, especially during these times, being able to provide all our students the lunches and everything that we've been going through. So I appreciate everything you've been doing, so thank you.
It's my pleasure, and thank you.
And your entire staff who's helped us throughout this entire pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We're almost done. Just want to update everybody. We were going to have an audit committee discussion tonight. The audit committee will be meeting one more time to have one more discussion. Once they have that meeting, they will come back and they will bring forward their recommendation to the board to discuss going forward. Any other questions about the audit committee? Not hearing any. Can I have is there any items the board would like to remove from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Not hearing any. Can I have a motion to approve items H, I, J, K, L, M, and N? I'm sorry, stops at M. Mr. Johnson, second. Mr. Crew, discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries 6-0. Moving on to the regular agenda, can I have a motion to gratefully accept the cash donation from the Mason Foundation for $8,000 in order to provide a student with a scholarship? Mr. Siri, second by Mr. Hall. Any discussion? Just thank you so much to the foundation. We truly appreciate it. This is going to go to great use for one student. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to the regular agenda, item 2. Can I have a motion to gratefully accept the donation of $33,600 for approximately 80 Chromebooks?
So moved.
Mr. Siri, second by Ms. Byrne. Discussion. Again, this is the same person who provided 100 Chromebooks over the summer, so we're so thankful and we truly appreciate it. And Dr. Harney, we appreciate you going out of your way to make this happen.
And we will be receiving 20 more. There's 20 on back order as well, so I'd like to thank them as well. I mean, this has been a tremendous help to us, especially as we move forward.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to number 3, can I have a motion to approve the records retention schedule? Mr. Siri, second. Mr. Crew, any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Moving on to the last one before we open it up to committee new business. Can I have a motion to approve the code of conduct review? Can I have a motion to approve the code of conduct review?
So moved.
Ms. Barnes, second. Mr. Siri, just a quick discussion. There was one name change. It's not a big change, but anytime you have a change, you have to do a review. So there was one name change in the code of conduct. Any more discussion? Yep. Any more discussion, Ms. Byrne?
Just a question on, I know I'm out of order, on the record review. Do we have to change policy because of that, or is that automatically a change of policy?
We won't have to change it because it's only going one name to another.
Okay, thanks.
Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Mr. Trombino, we'll open it up to you for community new business. Thank you for waiting around tonight, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Trombino. I have been in the district since 1982. I have 5 grandchildren. The oldest one is a senior, and recently he asked me, why don't we have a white month? What he meant was a Caucasian month. Okay, we have a Hispanic American month, we have an Afro-American month, we have a Native American month, and we have an Asian American month. Why are Caucasians excluded from the Heritage Program? I couldn't give him an answer, so I'm looking for an answer from the board.
Mr. Trombino, what I can say is we do have a committee. I mean, Dr. Harney, I guess we can send this to the committee. They can have a discussion about it, and we can have a discussion to see.
In this era of diversity and inclusiveness, why are Caucasians excluded? That's all I'm asking. And I propose two options. Either we add a vacation month to the program, or we eliminate the program in the issue of fairness. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Trombino. We will get back to you. We will talk about this with the committee, and we'll definitely get back to you. Open it up to any other community members. No, you're fine. I mean, I don't even know if the microphone's back there anymore.
I'm very happy with where we're moving in the progress and where we're going. I just have a question. What will we need to do now, knowing that where we are, I'm talking secondary, 7 through 12? I guess when we were thinking about, or in all the planning stages of how this was going to look, now that we're into it and now that we're looking to go back more, what would need to be done to reevaluate spacing, room usage, et cetera, now that we're back in as much as we are, to see how much additional space is needed to get more kids in more days?
Thanks, Mrs. Carroll. I don't know if I have the answer for you at this moment. And the reason I say that is I can honestly say myself, Mr. Andruskowitz, and Mr. House, pretty much every day are trying to figure out how can we make better use of space, and is there a better way to do it? You know, originally, even when we were talking about sixth grade, I'll be honest with you, sixth grade has been a goal of ours for a while now. And probably when we started to talk about it late summer, we were always looking at it as, okay, we know now the amount of students, if we're continuing to meet the 6-foot requirement, we know now the numbers that we can fit in each class comfortably. We know at a certain class, 16 is the top, some classes it's 12, whatever it may be. So that was the first thing. When we were looking at the 6th grade, our biggest issues was we started to think about it in that way. Okay, if we have 150 students and it's 15 kids, we need 10 sections, right? And then it becomes very staff heavy as well, right? Because you have to worry about that. We're still under the idea that we might have a 20% cut. We're still under the idea of the amount of additional funds we've used for the PPEs and all those. So all those are taken into consideration. So when we did, so how we ended up getting in the 6th grade, which we've kind of been working on for the last couple of weeks, is we changed the concept, right? We went to the size of the space. So we just so happen, if you're, and you guys are familiar with the middle school, you have those double rooms, right? We had to split. Mm-hmm. So we have those. We need more larger rooms like that to be able to do that. But even as I'm talking about this, I know people have been sending me emails tonight about other interesting ideas. Hey, did you think about this? So if you have an interesting idea, I will absolutely take it. But we're continuously really evaluating the space and how we're doing it. The hardest part is, even Mr. Haas and I have talked about the secondary, because the students change so many classes and so many offerings, that makes it a little bit more tricky as well. Where we have kids in one space, it becomes a little bit easier as well. So if you have ideas, we will absolutely take it. We're continuously looking to see it, you know, as to get more in and trying to still fit our same safety protocols that we have in place.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
We've even looked at things that said as trying to do things outside that somebody had brought in. There's a lot that goes along with it. It's not as easy as just throwing up a tent. No. And people think that. It's not. You have to go through state education department. There's a lot of pieces that play into this. So we are continuously trying to think of different ideas.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Any other community members? Just before we end, I just want to say there's about 15 people here. I'm not sure how everyone's feeling when they're leaving here, if they're frustrated or they're happy, but I just want to say, you know Dr. Harney, you know the administrative team, you know the teachers here, you know the staff. Everyone here wants to do the right thing for kids. We might have a different philosophy on how to get there, but everybody wants what's best for kids, and I hope that everyone leaves here believing that. But at this time, we'll open it up to trustees for any new business. Not hearing any, can I have a motion to adjourn? Is that Mr. Hall, second? Mr. Crew, all in favor? Thank you guys so much. We appreciate your time. Have a great night. Hopefully we'll see you at the next board meeting.